Hey y'all, it's Carolina. I'm back with another video. Today's video, we're going to be going over the books that I read in Q1 of this year. I know it's June, but this is when we're doing my Q1 reviews, so stay tuned. So my reading goal for this year is 60 books, and I feel like the 14 that I read in Q1, I'm definitely on track to make that number. I did hit 60, I think 2 years ago, if we're going by my story graph. So I feel like I can do that this year. I read 3 books in January, 3 books in February, and 8 books in March. I'm looking at my notes over here. So there will be some spoilers for the Between Earth and Sky trilogy by Rebecca Roanhorse because I read books 2 and 3 this year. So if you're not interested in spoiling some of the plot points for that book, then skip ahead to this part of the video. So my first read of this year was Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse. If you're not familiar with the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, it is a trilogy that is inspired by pre-Columbian indigenous cultures. So a lot of fantasy is usually inspired by like medieval culture or like English, Welsh, Irish. This one is pre-Columbian, meaning before Columbus made contact with the Western world. So there's god magic, politics, fantastical magical beast, and celestial prophecies, things like that. Real quick, in book 1, we follow Serapio and Shiala. Those are the 2 main characters in book 1. We follow them as they make their way to the city of Tova, where Serapio is trying to fulfill his destiny to become the crow god reborn. Shiala is tasked with getting him to the city of Tova. Shiala is a sailor. She's a captain. Serapio's purpose in life is to get revenge for the Knight of Knives. This is when the Order of Knives, killed a lot of Carrion Crow, which is Serapio's people. He is Carrion Crow. It's like one of the factions in this world. And when I say his purpose in life, I mean like his actual purpose in life, as he's been told his whole entire life. He grew up being told that this is literally the reason why you were born. This is why we're training you. This is why you were made, is to get revenge for this night. Book 2 is dealing with the aftermath of the revenge because things don't go exactly as planned. So book 2, everything is chaos. There is going to be war. And book 2 is a lot of the planning and the machinations and the like movements that people are making in order to prepare for this war that's coming in book 3. The first time I listened to it, I remember not enjoying it as much as book 1. Book 1, I believe I gave 5 stars. And I think what happened was that there was so many characters in book 1 and so many characters in book 2 that I was just kind of lost and trying to figure out, I'm like, what is happening? Who are all these people? Why should I care? There were so many names thrown at you. So the second time I read it or listened to it, I knew who the people were. I knew who the important people were. I knew kind of how it ended. And I knew some of the plot points in the middle. So I was better able to keep track of like, okay, this is what's happening here. Okay, this is what I didn't understand last time. I'm like, I saw how we ended, but I don't understand how we got there. Being that this was my second time listening to it, I did enjoy it a lot more. I was able to better focus on like, okay, these people are making this play and this person's making this play, and I see how it's all going to come together. This is a book about the planning, the middle. And this is not to say that exciting things don't happen. They do happen, but it's like, this is not the war. This is not the like big fights. There's like lots of little fights and lots of like little betrayals and things that are happening here. So book 1, 5 star. Book 2, 4 star. Book 3, Mirrored Heavens. If you watch my reading journal video, you know that Mirrored Heavens, the E in Heavens gave me a hard time when I was setting up my reading journal. I'll link it somewhere over here. So Mirrored Heaven, like I said, is the war has started. The war that's been set up in book 2, it started. So everybody's kind of coming back together. Everybody that's spread apart is now coming back together. I think this one, I know that it's hard to wrap up a story. Like I can only imagine how difficult it is to like grab all the different tendrils that you spread out in a story and pull them all together to an ending. But this one, I had such a hard time from the beginning because chapter one, like this is first thing that happens is that Shiala, again, spoilers if you want to skip, Shiala is back with the Teak, and basically the first thing that happens is that like they are attacked, and she lives through it. But I didn't like it. I understand that in a lot of like superhero or magic, or when somebody has like a power but they're not able to use it, like a lot of the times they have to go through a traumatic experience in order to get that power to like fully come out. Like we've all seen it. Peter Parker, we've all seen it. Or to get a handle on things or to become the person, like I get it. But since it happens so much, I am able to tell the times where I enjoy it more than others. So I think the reason why it didn't work this time for me is that we didn't get to spend a lot of time with the other Teak women. The ones mostly that die are the elders. And I'm like, I feel bad, because I understand it must be a traumatic experience. But I also was like, we barely got any time with them. I don't really know these people. And I wish we would have spent a little bit more time and seen what Chiala's life was like in Teak before this happened. We would got a little bit more of the dynamic between everybody. Like like it's mentioned, but it's not as much as I would have preferred. So that when they died, it wasn't a like gut punch. It was just like, oh, okay, this is how we're starting. Fine. Okay, I see where you're doing it so that she can get our powers. Blah blah blah. And that really wasn't where the problem stopped for me. I didn't like the pacing of this book. I felt like there were things happening. Obviously, it's a war. There's like battles and things like that. Some of the most exciting battles I've read are in this book. There's like an air battle, and I'm like, wow, that was great. Love that. But there was a lot of time in between that it was just like kind of boring. So the pacing of this book, that's something that I had an issue with. And the last thing was that I was able to really predict how this book was going to end, and it wasn't a surprise. Like I was like, okay, so I see where we're going here. Ultimately, I do still think that this is a good read, and I would recommend it for people who are interested in a fantasy trilogy that has lots of characters, political drama, magical beings, magic, god magic, things like that. I do recommend it, but I think that this book is the weakest one. So I did end up giving this book a 3.75. I think it's probably closer to a 3.5, but I think for the trilogy as a whole, I'm bumping it up to a 3.75. It's not a bad book. It was just the weakest link. The third book for January was Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kasulke. Just a little synopsis. I got this from the Storygraphs website. Gerald, a mid-level employee of a New York-based relations firm, has been uploaded into the company's internal Slack channels, at least his consciousness has. His colleagues assume it's an elaborate gag to exploit the new work-from-home policy, but now that Gerald's productivity is through the roof, his bosses are only too happy to let him work from wherever he says he is. I think this book was so funny. I have a corporate job. I use Slack for work. If you have ever used Slack or Teams or even Discord, if you have used it in a professional setting, then you're able to jump into this and you get how funny the corporate life in a Slack channel is. The use of the emoji as a company inside joke, chef's kiss. Love that. That some people have like their full names and some people have like just like their name, lowercase, the different. Oh, so good. So good. If you have never used Slack or Teams or Discord or anything like that, I can get how jumping into this book, you'd be like, what is this? Like, how am I supposed to follow along? Just go along for the journey. Okay. Imagine it's a chat room or something. I don't know what to tell you, but if you use Slack, you understand the format of this book. I think this book is about like work-life balance, what it means to be alive, what it means to be human, and what makes life worth living. I enjoyed a lot of the like side chats and things other people were having that we were reading. It was also a very quick read. I think I read it in like 3 hours. It's a very short book. My biggest complaint with this book is that there is it's like a weird non-consensual scene. It's mentioned that this thing happened, but it's not described in the book. And it was so odd. I'm like, what? If you would have just left that out, I feel like this book would have been a 5 stars. It was just like a weird, oh, like why is this happening? Like I don't understand. If that's a trigger warning for you, it's like I said, it's not described explicitly. It's mentioned that this thing happened. And I'm just like, I don't like that. I didn't like that at all. So I was worried that I was going to end up in a reading slump, and this book did help me get out of a reading slump. So I did ultimately give it 4 stars. I do still recommend this book, even with that weird scene. If I just, God, I wish I could just tell him to take it out. It doesn't need it. Like it literally adds nothing to the story. I don't understand why you did that, but 4 stars. I DNF'd one book in January, and this is the only book that I've DNF'd this quarter or year, even, I think. And that is right here, Malinali by Veronica Chapa. I got this book at the Well Read Black Girl Festival. It's an arc with like spun a wheel, and I got it in like a little raffle situation. So this book is, I'm just reading off the back, an imaginative retelling of the triumphs and sorrows of one of the most controversial and misunderstood women in Mexico's history and mythology. Perfect for fans of Silvia Moreno Garcia's God of Jade and Shadow, and Zoraida Cordova's The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. I like Silvia Moreno Garcia. Gods of Jade and Shadow is on my list. So then I was like, okay, so far so good. A real-life historical figure, the woman known as Malinali Malince, Malitzin, La Malicha, Doña Maria, and the Malihochil, I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm really sorry, was the Nahuatl interpreter who helped Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés communicate with the native people of Mexico. When indigenous leaders observed her marching into their cities, they believed she was a goddess blessed with the divine power to interpret the Spaniards' intention for their land. Later, historians and pop culture would deem her a traitor. The Indian girl, it's in quotes, who helped sell Mexico's future to an invader. And I was like, okay, I am an American and I was, brought up in the American school system. So I don't know that much about other countries' histories, barely know about mine. So I was like, okay, I didn't know who this person was. That sounds like an interesting situation of somebody who was labeled as a traitor. And I'm like, okay, let's start it. And it's like she was kidnapped into slavery by the age of 12. So that's when she started the traitorous behavior. I think this book is going to be a soft DNF, meaning I'm probably going to get around to reading it. But I think I did not like it because the book is told from the point of view of Malinali. And it starts when she's a young child. And she's annoying. She's annoying. So I couldn't get past like the first 50 pages because I'm just like, oh, this little girl is kind of annoying. I think that I'll give it another shot, but I was just in such a precarious space. I was about to fall into a reading slump. I knew it. I was like, I don't have time for an annoying child. I don't know how long it's going to take for her to become a teenager or adult or young adult or whatever, but I don't have time for an annoying child right now. So that's why I put it down. That was the soft DNF for January. February was 3 books as well. This first one is A Few Rules for Predicting the Future by Octavia E. Butler. Again, I'm just reading what the Storygraph says about it. Originally published in Essence magazine in the year 2000, Octavia E. Butler's essays A Few Rules for Predicting the Future offers an honest look into the inspiration behind her science fiction novels and the importance of studying history and taking responsibility for our actions if we are to move forward. But this one, it was like, it's a little bit depressing because you see that she doesn't have a crystal ball. She's not able to see into the future. She just extrapolates from the current events. So if you haven't read Parable of the Sower, you should. It's scary because it is so close to the political environment that we're living in. A lot of the things that she talks about, you can see it happening. And I think after when the pandemic started, like it started getting more and scarier and more closer to because it's a dystopia. Like an apocalyptic book. So you're just like, oh no. So that book specifically, Parable of the Sower, is, I think, what a lot of people refer to when they're like, oh, she can see into the future. How does she know? How does she know? Read this if you want to find out how she did it. But it doesn't end in a depressing note. It's a good little book to pull out when you're just trying to figure out like, oh, come on, how do we move forward? What is the point? And you read it, you get a little boost, and then you get back to it because everything is on fire, but that doesn't mean we get to put our head in the sand, you know. And this book is also really beautiful. Like it's illustrated by Manzel Bowman, and it's just like gorgeous. Learn from the past. Those who don't learn their history are doomed to repeat it. You know, I'm not going to show everything, but let's see. Look at this. Gorgeous. Love it. 5 stars. The next read for this month was 2 pages. I'm counting it because it's my video. And I've had a really hard year. So this is Compulsory by Martha Wells. I'm going to put a little picture right here. It's a teeny tiny prequel to the event in All Systems Red, which is book 1 of the Murderbot Diaries. If you don't know what the Murderbot Diaries are, there's a security android who calls himself Murderbot. He's a security unit, so it's a sec unit, and he is controlled by a chip in his head. And if he doesn't do what his human contractors tell him to do, he gets zapped by that chip in his head. Not just him, but all of the other sec units. So Murderbot has figured out how to disable that chip in his head, and now he has to decide what he wants to do with his life. He doesn't really like humans because humans suck, and he gives examples. He brings the receipts, and he just kind of wants to watch TV and be left alone. And I found that very relatable. So if you have read book 1, Compulsory is like 2 pages. What happens? A short little story of what happens before book 1. But if you haven't read Murderbot, Compulsory is a good little short story to figure out whether or not you'll like the humor in Murderbot and whether or not it's worth investing in the whole series for you. It was available for free, I'm pretty sure, from Kobo. I have a Kobo Libra 2. So I saw it was free and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll get it. And then I found that it was 2 pages. And if you don't know, there's also a new Murderbot TV show on Apple TV. I started watching it. It's different than the Murderbot that's in my head because I listen to the audiobooks. Highly recommend the audiobooks. Kevin R. Free is an amazing, amazing narrator. Shout out to Kevin R. Free. Like he does a great job at bringing Murderbot to life, in my opinion. Also, apparently he got like a Golden Voice Award, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but like somebody likes your voice enough to give you a Golden Voice Award. So I'm like, congratulations. I don't know him. I just thought. I just looked this up when I was looking up, making sure that I got his name right. I think Kevin R. Free does a really good job at narrating Murderbot. I enjoyed his performance so much that I feel like I am not enjoying the Apple TV show as much. I'm going to continue watching it. I think that the episodes should be an hour and not 20 minutes. I think that's probably my biggest complaint is that they're so short. I don't understand why they went with the 20 minutes instead of like a 40-minute TV show. But we'll see. We'll see when the whole season is out and I can watch everything in one go, whether or not, as a whole, it does a good job. The next read is Home by Martha Wells. This is also a Murderbot story, but it's 20 pages. Okay. And this is like 4.5. It takes place between Exit Strategy and Network Effect. This is a short story about the relationship between Menta, Dr. Menta, and Murderbot. She is the planetary leader for Preservation Alliance. She's the head of the Preservation Alliance Council and a scientist. And Murderbot likes her the most. She also likes Murderbot for reasons I won't spoil. Not like romantic. Like Murderbot would be like gross, not romantic. Like not, they're friends, they're best friends. So this short story, Compulsory, gives us a closer insight into their relationship because it's just about them dealing with each other and dealing with the consequences of the actions in the books up to this point. So if you have read the Murderbot series or listened to it and you want a little bit more, Compulsory is a good little, and I think that was also free from Kobo. I think, pretty sure. So all of the books in March are audiobooks because I needed to unpack, I needed to clean, I needed to feed myself. There was so much to do. So I do have those Beyond the Wall here, but I ended up picking up the audiobook from Libro FM because moving, like I said. I don't know if it's just going to be a duology or continuing the story, but book one, The Space Between Worlds, I really enjoyed it. In book one, there are people who can move between different dimensions, and you can only move between different dimensions if you have died in that other dimension. So they're called like traversers. So the book one is following Kara, who is a traverser. That's her job. And she is moving between worlds. Something happens, it sets off another chain of events or whatever. But she lives inside of the city of Wiley, which is behind walls. And outside of the city is Ashtown. So book one is Kara's story. Book two is the story of Mr. Scales beyond the wall. Mr. Scales is kind of like an enforcer in Ashtown. So for me, book one can even be a standalone because this one takes place, I think, 10 or 12 years after the event of book one. I really did not enjoy Mr. Scales, the main character. She didn't captivate me as a character as much as literally everybody else in the first book. I think that the problem with this was that Mr. Scales and the writing was a little bit repetitive. So you were kind of being beat over the head with what the writer was trying to tell you, and they weren't showing you. You, as a writer, is trying to describe this world and paint a picture for the reader of like, this is why Ashtown wants to fight for their rights. Like, show me the power imbalance. How does that affect everybody's day to day life? How does it affect them on a weekly cycle, on a monthly cycle, or a yearly cycle? How is it that everything in your society is being affected by the power imbalance between Ashtown and Wiley City? It wasn't enjoyable, which is a bummer because when this book came out, I was just like, oh, about another book. I didn't even think we needed a continuation for the story, but yeah, sure, great. And then I was like, oh, okay. And I gave this book a 3 stars. Yeah, it just I think book one was so good. Another problem that I had was that Mr. Scales was just making assumptions about everybody. Everybody. In book one, Kara was making assumptions about some people, but like one person in particular. And you then like see that the reason why those assumptions were made, you get explained, like explained to you like why they both feel the way they do and see things the way they do, and it makes sense. In this book, Scales doesn't like the more religious order in this book, and it's like because one kid called her, like told her she was going to hell one time, like as a kid. And I'm like, okay, but like was that your only interaction with them ever? Just like one kid? Did you live in the same town? You've interacted with other members of this, or like, and she was just doing that with everybody. So I was like, you don't seem like somebody who grows or changes or oh, I just didn't enjoy her as a character. The next book I have is murder mystery. It's The Tainted Cup. I think it's been popular here on YouTube. It's a story about this augmented investigating assistant. I don't know what his title is, but he's the assistant to an investigator, a detective, kind of, and they have to figure out why this murder is happening, this very weird murder that nobody is like, what is going on here? So he has an augmentation that allows him to remember everything in the room or like in the investigation if he anchors that memory with a scent. So he has to like take everything in, anchor it with a scent, and then when he smells that scent, he can bring up everything. So the investigator does not leave their house ever. So that's why she's like, my assistant will go and take all the evidence and tell me what's happening. I think it was a cute little murder mystery. We figure out what happened to the end. The world building was pretty interesting. Like it's obviously a bigger world with a lot of different like races, like some races, not racist, races. There's some augmented people. I don't think that counts as a different race, but there seems to be humanoid people and also like more animal kind of blends. And then there's also, I think they're called leviathans, like giant beasts in the water that are attacking the cities and things like that. So there's a lot going on in this book, and I'm interested in reading the second book. It was good, but not great, in my opinion. I think that this got a lot of bonus points for the world building. I think this is like a galaxy spanning civilization. There's different planets and things like that. So I'm really interested in seeing more of this world, but I think the murder mystery part of it was okay. I ended up giving this one a 3.75, mostly for the world building and for the introduction of like everybody around us. I'm really interested to see more of different characters and different people, I guess, being murdered if this is going to be a murder series. I also started another similar murder mystery crime solving series. And this is by the Saint of Steel series by T. Kingfisher. I got these because they were available at the library, and I've read some T. Kingfisher in the past that I've enjoyed, so I went into these blind. Listened to books 1, 2, and 3 in March, and I also finished book 4 in April. So we'll just talk about the series as a whole because it's easier that way. And that way I don't have to spoil anything. This is a story that follows an order of paladins and their love interests as they try to solve the mysteries of their world. There's like murder mysteries or like weird things are happening and they're trying to figure it out why. The paladins feel like they are unworthy of love because their god has died and they don't have a purpose in life anymore. Their god was literally their guiding light. They're a part of their soul. And when that god died, they just were like, I don't know what to do with myself, and kind of went a little crazy. All of them. Some of them had to be put down because they are very big and very strong and very good at killing. They were eventually taken in by the god of a different people, the White Rat, and they are, think of them as like socialist lawyers. They're like a nonprofit. Kind of the White Rat sees a problem and they try to fix it. But in this world, there's a lot of problems. So they can't fix all the issues, but they're trying, you know? So they see these paladins broken. They need somebody to believe in, something to do. So they're like, you know what? We could use some big, strong people on our team. So come over here. We'll take you in. We'll take care of you. So book 1 follows Stephen and Grace. Stephen is assigned to be Grace's bodyguard because they have to go find out more about this king. Grace is a perfumer, so she makes perfumes, and they need more information for the White Rat. Something weird is happening at the king's residence or whatever, and they send Grace and Stephen and her friend Marguerite. A murder happens, but at the same time, a romance happens. So these are all murder mystery romance books. It's very formulaic in my opinion. It's like something mysterious, a murder happens. The paladin is paired up with somebody, and they together have to work to find out what is going on for reasons. They are romance books, and they have a little bit of spice, like one scene that's a little explicit. I would say I've read much more explicit ones. It is described, so if that's not something that you're into, then maybe skip this. But if you're like, I could use a little, but not too much, this is probably fine. I enjoyed this a lot because the T. Kingfisher does invest in the world building. So just like the Tainted Cup, I am interested in I'm like, okay, so this world has different, also like there's gnolls, which are like, I think they're badger people who can talk. And then there's also these like clockwork beings that used to exist. And it's like, then there's also in the first one, it's a mystery of like somebody with no face, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, So there's a lot of magic and mystery and murder, and none of that really suffers because of the romance, in my opinion. But it was a good little read. I think I said 3.5. 3.75 is probably where I'm going to land for the series as a whole. I enjoyed them a lot, and I did giggle a couple of times, so that feels right. That feels good. The next books in March were books 1 and 2 of the Poppy War trilogy. But if you're not familiar with the Poppy War series, all the trigger warnings, every trigger warning in that checkbox, all of them, every single one. Do not read this if you are not in a mental space where you can handle trauma, because this is a story about war. Listen to the audiobooks, and each audiobook is like 24 to 30 hours. So I got the trilogy, and I think it was like 66 hours total for the whole trilogy. It was the story of Rin is a war orphan, because there was a war before, and now there's another war coming. She's a very poor person in one of the provinces that isn't respected as much in the South. And she's also dark skinned, and she's also a woman. So those are three things that she has working against her in this society. Her only way out is to take this test. So if she does well on this test, she gets sent to this war academy. When she gets to the war academy, she realizes that she's going to have another test in a year. So she has to keep working really hard to be the best at the war academy so she doesn't get kicked out and sent back to her life, because she doesn't want to go back to her life. Her life sucked. When in this war academy, she realizes that she has this special power, and then war starts, and the people in charge want to use her special power to help them do the war. That's basically the story. So I'm going to read from my notes because I don't want to get any of this wrong, but the author based this book off of the Second Sino-Japanese War. So again, I am an American and I was taught in American school. So World War II, I was not taught a lot about what was going on in the East. I mostly just learned about what Germany was doing, in the United States. A lot of the atrocities and the horrible things that are described, none of it is pulled out of thin air. This is kind of like The Handmaid's Tale, where like Margaret Atwood, she didn't invent any of this stuff. She just kind of pulled it from different places and put it all together. This is the same thing where it's like none of this stuff was like, this stuff actually happened because war crimes, right? But the author didn't want to do 1940s war novel. She gave it the atmosphere of the Song Dynasty. So it's like more swords fighting. So no, there's no phones or TV or radios or anything like that. In book one, I was really invested in Rin's journey. I was rooting for her. I was like, no, girl, don't do that. Don't do that. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Do this instead. Like I was rooting for Rin. I'm like, girl, come on. You pulled yourself out. Like, let's go. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm seeing the things that she's doing, and I'm just like, oh, it's frustrating, but I was rooting for her. I was rooting for her. She is capable. She is smart. She is hardworking, but she just doesn't have very high self-esteem. This is the second book I've read from R.F. Kuang. I read Babel, however you're supposed to pronounce it. And I enjoyed that one a lot. Kuang does a really good job of like taking inspiration from the real world and like turning it into this magical world and teaching me, the reader, a little bit about Asian, Chinese, in this case, Chinese history, Chinese Japanese history, and throwing some magic in there and telling a story. And it's so compelling. It's so long. It's so detailed. Just wonderful writing. Love it. So this is definitely not going to be my last R.F. Kuang, but there's a lot of character development in this book. You're going to be either rooting for these people or not. Like there's no in between. You either like them or you don't. But you still want to know. You're like, okay, come on. So book one, great. Loved it. Book two, I think this is probably because I did book one and book two, one right after the other. Like I said, all the trigger warnings. It's a very deep, heavy book. And I was just like, girl, we still making the same mistakes? We're still doing the same things? It was frustrating. I couldn't. I was just like, I don't wanna see you like this. I don't want to see you making the same mistakes. So I feel like I had to break up with the trilogy because it was just like a friend that was just making the same mistakes, complaining. I'm like, you keep doing the same things, girl. Like, why would you expect a different outcome? And again, I think if I hadn't read them back to back, I wouldn't have been just so strongly overwhelmed by the bad decisions. So I think book one, 5 stars. Book two, we're going to give it 4 stars. Book two. Book three, DNF it because I just can't be in Rin's head anymore. The next and last book we have is Moon of the Crusted Snow, which is part of the White Sky Saga. With winter looming, a small northern Anishinaabe community goes dark. Cut off, people become passive and confused. Panic builds as the food supply dwindles, while the band council and a pocket of community members struggle to maintain order. An unexpected visitor arrives, escaping the crumbling society to the south. Soon after, others follow. This book was sold to me as a a post-apocalyptic book. And I was like, okay, post-apocalyptic in Canada. I believe this takes place in like southern Canada. I'm a big fan of the post-apocalyptic genre. I read a lot of them. Unfortunately, I did not enjoy this book as much as I thought I was going to enjoy it. I think it's because it was so short and there was no, in my opinion, there was no suspense building really. I thought it was pretty obvious what was going to happen from the beginning. Like it was another case of like nothing was surprising. I also didn't feel invested in anybody, even Evan, the main character. And it's not because I don't find like his situation sympathetic or the situation of the people in his community sympathetic. I was just like, I just don't think that the author did a good job of like making me care about these people before the stuff started happening. And I think that was it. I think it was just too like too short of a story. It's also not where I would start the story. When I found out that there was going to be a book two and I read the description of book two, I'm like, that is way more interesting than this. So why isn't the story starting with this part of the apocalypse versus this? So mild spoilers. Book two is basically the community has left where they are and they're trying to go to the Great Lakes region of Michigan to reclaim their ancestral land. So I think book two takes place like 12 years in the future. I think it would have been such a much more interesting story if maybe book one started with them already on the road to get to the Great Lakes area. So they're already left and then they encounter different situations on the road to Michigan. And you could even like alternate between like on the road to Michigan and like connect it to things that are that happened back in this community and like that would have been a much more interesting tale than just like this story of like one winter when it first started. Because book two sounds so much more interesting, I'm going to give it a shot, but I was so disappointed in this one. I'm going to give it a 2.75. Like it was so boring. It was so predictable. I really wanted to like this book and I was let down so much. If you read this book and loved it, change my mind in the comments, you know. So that's it for today's video. That's my Q1 reading wrap up. Did you read any of this books? Do you have a different opinion than mine, especially the last one, Moon on the Crest of Snow? Change my mind. If you liked it, write in the comments. Are you going to watch the Murderbot TV show? I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it till the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.